Get 5 coffins ready.
Bellona is a strength scaling, physical damage dealing melee range character in SMITE. Bellona is currently best in the soul lane, but is a decent tank jungler. Currently, Bellona's aspect is the best way to play the character, and I'll give a quick demonstration of it at the end of the video. She focuses on negating the enemy's ability to basic attack, while having strong basic attacks of her own. So therefore, she's very good into teams who have more than one character who mainly deal damage to their basic attacks. Relics-wise, Bellona is another very versatile one. Blink is of course the de facto relic of SMITE 2 and it's your go-to. But if you need Shell to deal with walls, Sundering Arc to deal with objective secure, and so on, Bellona can build any of them. Build-wise, it's as you'd expect with what I just said. It should look like a build for an ADC but with defense items splashed in. Full tank Bellona is frankly terrible. Bare minimum, you need some attack speed. You definitely need some damage on the character too, otherwise you're just completely useless. Let's get to why by talking about her passive. Bellona gains stacking movement speed by landing basic attacks, and will gain another bonus based on what ability she has most recently used, such as her first ability. Bellona dashes forward a short amount and deals damage and slows in a wide cone AoE in front of the dash. This dash will stop on the first enemy hit, but will still deal the AoE damaging slow, which is important to note. In this mode, Bellona's basic attack chain becomes faster but deals less damage. Bellona also gains stacking protections while basic attacking enemies in this mode, up to 5 times. Additionally, every 3 basic attacks on an enemy god will grant Bellona a block stack, which will negate the next basic attack from an enemy god that hits Bellona, and then deals damage in AoE around Bellona. And important to note, Bellona will start with as many block stacks as enemy gods she hit with that initial AoE. So that's why the basic attack chain hits faster but does less damage, since the idea here is for you to dash to get in their faces and attack quickly so you can stack up your block stacks. Of course, the idea is to hit them as fast as possible, as many times as possible, to get as many block stacks as possible. So that means no matter how much less damage you technically do to the enemy ADC, you can still outtrade characters who focus on basic attacks because you're literally negating their ability to basic attack you as the Bellona and reflecting the damage back at them. Well, not a direct reflection, but in the AoE around you at least. Hence why having that slow is so great, and building up your passive movement speed as quickly as possible is important as well. So again, attack speed, you need it. So just generally speaking, use this ability as a dash outside of fights when you know you're going to be trading with basic attacks. It really just depends on who you're fighting, but in terms of the soul lane, most gods do deal plenty of damage through basic attacks, so once you get some attack speed, it's a good idea to dash in with this and go for a trade once the wave is cleared. And of course, typically, you clear with your second ability. Bellona swings her hammer around, dealing damage, and then slams the hammer down, dealing damage again. This slam damage, as it's called, will be increased depending on how many enemy gods Bellona hit with the initial swing. The more important thing about this ability is the new basic attack chain though. Bellona's basic attacks now deal more damage and in a cone AoE in front of her, but they do come out slower, and they grant her stacking strength as she basic attacks up to 5 times. This right here is Bellona's wave clear ability. And of course it's where some of her weaknesses show. If this ability is cancelled during the spin, you will luckily still gain access to the AoE basic attacks, but you lose that fairly important slam damage. Since of course, just sitting there basic attacking the wave works in some matchups, but not most. Most characters will be able to use hard CC to get you out of that spin to avoid getting hit with a slam. Which in turn means lots and lots of damage avoided for your lane opponent, and damage done to you before you've even touched the wave. So play around which character you're laning against and position yourself so that you can hit the wave without getting CC'd, or at least make it so they can't CC you and hit the wave at the same time. Think for example someone like a Hercules, or an Amaterasu, where if you're just standing in your minion wave, they can simultaneously clear the wave and CC you. It's all about damage limitation with this ability, especially in the early game when minions are hitting especially hard and your attack speed is slow, so in turn your clear is slow. So keep in mind too, however, these AoE basic attacks will push back and stagger minions, as well as proc Death Stole. So even though you may have to tank some damage to clear up the wave, it's not all doom and gloom, especially in matchups where they can't really answer your wave clear. Because if you're able to fully clear the wave with your 2, you can of course just start slapping them with your first ability, or depending on the matchup, maybe your third ability instead. Bellona deals damage in a long rectangle AoE in front of herself, disarming all enemies in the area. Bellona's basic attacks in this mode will now deal less damage, but will heal Bellona for each hit and grant her stacking attack speed, stacking up to 5 times. So depending on your lane opponent, this ability can be a lot of different things. It can be your wave clear in tandem with Golden Blade if your 2 is simply too risky to use in order to clear. It can be your go-to trade tool after you've cleared the wave if your 1 wouldn't be as effective against this opponent. Or it might be useless and you only ever really use it to heal up between fights. It really just depends completely on who you're fighting in lane. But on that note, keep in mind that you will heal off of anything you hit. Buff camps, minions, towers, all of it. So this is where it's potentially better than the block stacks of your 1. If you're against an enemy like a mage solo lane or a tank solo laner who have weak hitting basic attacks, no matter how fast they come out, the healing from the 3 will generally be better than trying to block and reflect damage back with the 1. Again, if you're against a sluggish, low basic attack damage mage solo laner. So if you can't already tell, the order in which you use Bellona's abilities really depends on who you're fighting and at what point in the game. So it's going to take some experience to know which direction to take at every given situation. Just remember, you basically always want to end on your 3rd or 1st ability when fighting an enemy god. And remember, her 2nd ability stance really only works in the short term for burst, whereas her other 2 tools, her 1st and 3rd ability, are better over a longer period of fighting. So short trades are not your friend. Much more simple is Bellona's ultimate. Bellona becomes CC immune and leaps to a target location, spawning an AoE which grants herself and any ally's strength, intelligence, as well as physical and magical protections, as long as they are in the AoE. None of these are persistent effects. More importantly, enemies in the very center of the AoE when Bellona initially leaps will be damaged and stunned. So while bonuses given to yourself and teammates are great, what this ability is really used for is opening Bellona up to both engaging on enemies and having one of the best escape abilities in the game. So again, just like her 2nd ability, it's all about reading your opponents and using this ability when you know it will be effective. Like when timing this leap to avoid big abilities like a Hercules ultimate or a Chalk ultimate, which of course means you avoid it and stun them afterwards for a massive swing in your advantage. But okay, do you ever just use it to engage instead? It seems like it'd be perfect for engages, and it kind of is, but keep in mind, you can really only hit one person with it, and it is very telegraphed. Meaning that if whoever you're trying to land on has their purification beads, or a teammate with Talisman of Purification, or simply a CC immune ultimate, they will cleanse this ultimate, since it's so easy to react to. Of course, you still gain lots of protections and power once it lands, so it's not that bad, but it means that during teamfights you usually dunk on people with this ability after your team's support has already engaged for you. So essentially, your support engages, lands some CC, gets that Purification Beads or CC Immune Ultimate off first, and then you just come in with the leap, since it has such great range. And just as a general rule of thumb, it's just not a great idea to start a fight with this ability. Unless of course you get the pick of the century or something. As in finding someone alone in the jungle with your entire team behind you. Then yes, please, go for the ability. So without further ado, let's look at some combos with Bellona. 1, auto, 2, then 3, then autos. 2, 3, autos while they're disarmed, then 1. 1, auto, 2, 3, autos, then chase with your ultimate. Ult, auto, 3, autos, then chase with your 1 and your 2 after the disarm ends. For ability leveling, you want your 2 at level 1, and typically your 3 at level 2 since you don't have enough attack speed yet to make use of your 1. So then your 1 at level 3, and then from there, what you max, again, kind of depends on who you're fighting. In matchups where you can always get your 2 off without it being cancelled, level the 2. Or if it gets cancelled, but you don't take that much damage, you still level the 2 for the clear. But if you truly can't use your 2, you level the 3. From there, of course, you level your ultimate whenever you can, and hold off on leveling the 1 until it's the only ability left. So that's Bellona, a god with a very simple game plan, but one that you have to have some knowledge of Smite character strengths to use her correctly. Because while she can dive onto mages and protect her carries from assassins, she is really only ever best used to shut down gods who focus on using their basic attacks to do damage. Again, you can just use your 1 to jump on anyone and just start basic attacking them, but she can only really prevent basic attack damage from hitting her. So if you're just trying to chase down enemies who do all their damage with their abilities, you're going to feel pretty useless. But latch onto an enemy who relies on their basic attacks for damage instead, and you'll feel invincible, blocking almost all of their basic attacks from hitting you, or just shutting them down entirely with your disarm. She can feel downright OP when you're on the receiving end. And even better, with her aspect, you can give these benefits to your teammates as well. With Bellona's aspect, she loses the bonus damage of the slam on her 2nd ability. However, now she grants the block stacks from her 1st ability as well as every heal from her 3rd ability to any nearby allies. And I'm a level with you, Chief. There's no reason not to use this aspect, other than maybe when you're playing Bellona jungle. The Slam Under 2 is great during the early game and the mid game too, but it's completely irrelevant come late game. And you know what's not irrelevant? Infinite block stacks for you and your team. Just like with picking out the correct targets in fights as well as how you want to play in the laning phase, this aspect does require a decent amount of Smite knowledge and skill to make the most out of, managing your positioning with your teammates and whatnot. But again, all you miss out on is a little bit of extra damage on your 2 in return for infinite block stacks and infinite heals on your teammates. So yeah, you can kinda just skip playing Bellona without her aspect and just dive headfirst into aspect Bellona instead. That's all I have on Bellona for now. Thank you for watching.